From Square 2, this is What's Wrong with Revenue. I'm Mike Lieberman, CEO at Square 2, and along with my longtime friend and business partner, Eric Kalis, this show answers the question many CEOs, CMOs, CROs, and business owners are asking, what's wrong with revenue? New shows drop every Thursday morning. You can find the video version of the show on YouTube at the Square 2 Marketing channel, on our website at the What's Wrong with Revenue page located in the footer, or on our free streaming service Square 2 Plus, both located at square2marketing.com. You can subscribe to the show or subscribe to Square 2 Plus, and we'll email you new show content as soon as it's published. You can also submit questions to the show on the What's Wrong with Revenue page of our website. Eric and I answer questions every single episode. You can also find the podcast version of the show on all your favorite podcast platforms. Enjoy the show. Everybody, welcome to Season 2, Episode 24 of What's Wrong with Revenue. I'm Mike Lieberman, CEO here at Square 2, and my guest today is Senior Engagement Specialist at Square 2, Cade Wilcox. Cade, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back on the show, Mike.
No problem at all. You're driving a Winnebago?
No. Yeah, it's a Tiffin Allegro, 40-foot Class A motorhome.
Well, you're splitting hairs, right? It's like a motorhome. I refer to Winnebago as like generic for motorhome, right?
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
So you're driving. You live in Texas, so tell us a little bit about your story, real quick.
Yeah, sure. Live in Texas, Lubbock, Texas specifically, and for the last 5 years, my family and I have been traveling. We've always for the last 5-6 years have had remote jobs, and so it's perfect. So I've my little girl's about to be 13, my son is 11, and we've been visiting national parks the last 5+ years. This year we kind of mixed it up. Usually we'll spend 4 or 5 nights somewhere and then go somewhere else. This go around, what we decided to do is stay in the same place more or less most of the month of June. So we're in Maine about 3 weeks. A little too early in the season. It was rainy and cold pretty much the whole time we were there. Currently in Western New York, and we'll make our way to Philadelphia this coming week. And then we're going to suicide at home, and it's going to be 2 13-hour days from Philadelphia back to Lubbock, and we'll get back in the normal rhythm of life. So it's been good.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's cool. A lot of people probably have aspired to want to do something like that. So it's cool that you're doing that.
Yeah, it's the best thing we've ever done, honestly. And you don't have to do it the way we did. I mean, we went all out and got a 40-foot Class A, motorhome. You can do the same thing with the car and a tent. It's the best thing we've ever done. Nice.
All right, so on the show, we answer the question, what's wrong with revenue? And we try to come up with topics that answer the question and give some clarity into what might be going wrong with revenue at your business, or not even wrong, but maybe it's just not as consistent as you'd like it to be, or maybe it's not as high as you'd like it to be. So we try to identify the issues and deal with them here. To remind everybody, you can catch the show on YouTube. Square 2 Marketing has a YouTube channel. Check out the show there. You can like us, you can subscribe to it, and you can leave us comments. All of Season 1 and Season 2 videos are posted and hosted on Square 2's YouTube channel. You can also check out the show on Square 2 Plus, Square 2's free streaming service located on our website, square2marketing.com/Square2PLUS. We have channels for CEOs, CROs, CMOs. We have a technology channel for HubSpot related issues, and even some pickleball business and marketing related videos coming soon. So you can go to that site. You can subscribe to Square 2 Plus, and just like Netflix, we'll let you know when new content is posted. We generally post something every week or so. If you love the show, you can go to the What's Wrong with Revenue page on the website. If you click podcast at the top of the site or podcast at the bottom of the site, there's a dedicated page to What's Wrong with Revenue. You can subscribe to the show directly there, and you can also leave us some questions if you'd like us to answer it. That's the housekeeping. I want to let everybody know this is the second to last episode, not for the year, but we're going to take a break. We're going to take July and August off, a little hiatus, if you will, like they say in show business. We're going to take a look at the show and make sure that we're bringing you the best content, the right content in the right format. And then we'll be back in September with additional episodes. So it's a good time for us to reflect a little bit on how the show's doing and see what we can do to make it better for all of you. So we appreciate all your support, all the downloads, all the views, all the watches, all the likes, but we're trying to make this show into something remarkable. If you follow the show, you know that's a big word for us. So we'll post a show the last week in June, and then we'll be off for a couple months. So today, the show is why know, like, and trust are critical to revenue generation. And the reason I invited Cade to come on the show is because Cade talks to all of our prospects before they become clients. And his main job really is to get them to know, like, and trust us so that they feel comfortable doing business with us. So, you've probably seen this a million times. You might even be doing it. You go to a website, and the only option is schedule a call, book a demo, get a quote. You're probably not ready for that step, right? You're just getting to know these people. You just visited their website for the first time. You're not ready to get married, if you will. You still want to date a bit. So you don't want to talk to a sales rep. You know that schedule a call, book a demo, get a quote, or all code for speak to a sales rep, and you're not ready for that. You're early in your buyer journey. You don't really know anything about this company yet, and you might want to do business with them, but you might not. In the short phrases, you're still getting to know them. You don't know them. You don't like them. You don't trust them yet. So when it comes to marketing, specifically your website and educational content, and even your sales process, you really have to align it with what we're going to talk about today, which is create this buyer journey experience that is strategically designed to help your prospects get to know, like, and trust your company. And while marketing is an important early part of this process, sales is the important second step in this process. If on your first call, your sales rep starts asking about a contract and a proposal, like, that's going to turn most people off. You have to earn their trust. You have to get to know them. They have to get to know you. And really, when you boil all this down, we talk about it in terms of they have to feel safe, right? Nobody is making any kind of significant purchase decision unless they feel safe with you and your company. Know, like, and trust are kind of like the three things that have to be there for people to feel safe. But in reality, almost every single purchase experience is an emotional one, and they have to feel safe before they're willing to think to themselves, like, yes, this is the company I could do business with. And this concept of feeling safe and getting them to know, like, and trust you are really important. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Cade has a lot of experience with this, getting people to trust him, know him, and like him, and ultimately getting them to feel safe with Square 2 before they do business with us. So a couple of things we're going to cover today: how your website and educational content should be designed to get prospects to feel safe, how your sales process should be designed to get your prospects to feel safe, what exactly your sales reps can be doing to help prospects know, like, and trust you, or make them feel safe. And then how do we measure whether prospects are feeling safe, and how to respond when they're not? And then how do you leverage customers who already feel safe to drive more revenue with your current customers? So this is what we're going to talk about today. I think this is a really great second to last show. Kind of brings together a lot of the stuff we've been talking about all season long in a pretty practical way that I think a lot of people should be able to get their hands around and work with in their business. So Cade, what do you think about our topic today?
I think it's a really important one. I think you highlighted people's kind of dissatisfaction when the only option is going from maybe interested to having to go through a sales process. So I think it's quite relevant, and a lot of companies get this wrong, and so hopefully we can add a lot of value today.
Yeah, let's just talk about that for a second, because this is probably the most important issue here, and maybe it's not quite as obvious as it could be. A lot of clients that we work with want to, jump to the end of the story. Get me sales ready leads. Get me people who want to buy. Get me qualified prospects. Get me people with projects. Get me people with money, right? And are unfortunately pretty quick to disqualify every other thing we might do for them, every other type of connection we might create for them. New contacts for their database, people who are early and not ready to talk to a rep yet, but they're interested in your business. Like, once you start focusing your marketing people or your agency or even your salespeople or your contractors, whatever you're doing from a marketing perspective, once you start disappointing those people at the end of the buyer journey, you're making a big mistake. And you're making a big mistake because you're going to be putting a lot of energy towards a very small percentage of the people you're talking to, as opposed to talking to the large percentage of people you're going to talk to. If we look at our clients and the leads that we're generating for them, probably 90% of them are early buyer journey leads. And that's very typical across industries and across different types of businesses. Most of the people who are going to be attracted by your marketing are not ready to talk to a sales rep. In fact, I'll ask anyone watching or listening to this show, you guys like talking to sales reps? I sure don't. I would prefer to do as much as I possibly can before I have to talk to someone who I think is going to, try to convince me to do something or pressure me or whatever. I mean, I don't want to talk to people in general. That's a whole nother show probably, but I definitely don't want to talk to sales reps until I actually have to. And that's how most people feel. If you look at Amazon, right? You don't have to talk to a sales rep to buy stuff from Amazon, and they're obviously doing pretty well. Sales, which used to control this experience, 20 years ago, are now really only involved in the last 10% of the experience. So you have to really shift your thinking away from, we only want sales qualified leads, we only want sales opportunities, to how do we get as many people into our database as possible, regardless of where they are. If they're early, we're going to nurture them. If they're mid, we're going to offer them educational opportunities. And if they're late and they put their hand up and they're ready to talk to us, we'll happily talk to them and give them a great experience. So, if you take away nothing from the show, take away that you have to change your thinking about what's important to you from a marketing perspective specifically, and make sure it's about building that contact database, especially as regulations change and privacy laws are changing in this country. It's going to be very, very difficult to call people. It's going to be very, very difficult to send cold emails. It's going to be very difficult to get in touch with people that you don't know. So you have to get them to ask to know you. You have to ask them to be part of your orbit and ecosystem. You have to get them to want to be part of your community. And then you can have a more constructive and efficient marketing and sales conversation with them. So getting them to know, like, and trust you, getting them to feel safe with your business should be at the top of the list of things you want to do the rest of this year and going into next year. So Kate, let's get into it a little bit and let's just talk about the website, right? It's everyone has a website. Everyone knows they need a website. Everyone, I think, wants a good website. So how does a website and educational content help prospects feel safe when they land on your company's website? I think you froze a little bit. In fact, I think you froze a lot. So I'll answer that question, and when you come back on,
two things that you can do.
You froze a little bit. You want to try it again?
Yeah, sorry about that.
No problem. Go ahead. You're good now.
Yeah, so I think the two things I think of immediately are both connected to what you said about people skipping over the very beginning stages of the buyer's journey. So there are two things. First of all is what makes your message unique and how does it directly connect to the ideal buyer persona? Like, are you talking about yourself or are you talking to your actual prospect, and is your message uniquely crafted for them specifically? So I think that's the first huge mistake that people make. The second is that there's not content created and put on the website in a way that reflects the actual buyer's journey. Again, not to be redundant, but going back to what you said in terms of people wanting to skip the buyer's journey all the way to the end, one of the classic mistakes is there's no content at the beginning of the buyer's journey, and so there's no way during the pre-awareness and the awareness and the education and the consider phase, if you go to our cyclonic buyer's journey, there's no way for them to kind of find and capture the information that they're looking for. And you're ultimately missing out on a huge opportunity to build credibility and to build trust as they start to do their own exploration for who they want to work with.
Yeah, it's a really good point. So this buyer journey is really interesting. And I want to just call everybody's attention to it because there are very specific ways human beings make purchase decisions, and it doesn't get discussed enough. if you think about anything you purchase, so Kate, you bought this motorhome, right? How long did it take you to get educated around motorhomes before you finally went in and signed all the paperwork?
Months
Months.
of
Right.
researching, watching,
Right.
reading, exploring, considering. Yep.
Right. Now that's a big purchase for anybody, right? But if you're a business and look, we work mostly with B2B businesses who have, high ticket products and services and long complex sales cycles. Any B2B company is probably in a similar position as the motorhome company, right? No one wakes up on Monday morning and says, "Hey, I'm going to spend $200,000 today on a new software package for my company," right? They're like, "Okay, our reporting package isn't working. We need something new. Okay, let's start doing some research," right? What do we need? Who are the competitors? What are the differences? And where do they go to that? They go to the internet, right? And they start looking around, they do some Google searches and they see a bunch of websites. And as soon as they land on that website, they're getting an experience, they're getting a feeling about your business. If you have a bad website, they're going to get a bad experience. If you have a mediocre website, they're going to have a mediocre experience. If you have a great website, they're going to be like, "Wow, look at this company. Their story speaks to me. I clearly see that they're doing something interesting, but more importantly, look at all this content. Like, wow, I don't really know much about reporting packages for my company yet, but look, they have a comparison sheet. They have an assessment I can take to see exactly what I might need. Here's a white paper on progressive reporting packages in 2023. Like, this is great. I'm going to learn about this so that when I go back to my boss and tell him what we want to do, I'm going to look really smart." Download, email. Like, next thing you know, there's someone who is going to buy something, engaging with your website, engaging with your content, sharing their information with you, and giving you an opportunity to help this person get to know, like, and trust you. This is a huge difference even today, right? I mean, Kate, you look at a lot of websites. How many websites do you look at that either have no content on it other than, book a meeting or schedule a call, and really no story on the website? I mean, I would probably guess it's still 95% of the websites we see have no compelling story and no content to help someone feel like they're in the right place. How do you feel about that?
That's 100% true. I think one mistake companies make is they, when they think of the buyer's journey, they think of what they want their sales process to be. They put on the prospect what they want out of the sales process versus actually thinking about the buyer's journey specific to the unique buyer and the pain points and the goals and the things they're trying to accomplish. And so, yeah, it rarely do you see a website where you're like, wow, they really dialed in the messaging related to their ideal customer. They've really dialed in content and the way they've served that up to their prospect based on the prospect's unique needs and the unique buyer's journey they're on. And so, yeah, it's a major challenge that companies face.
Yeah. So, if we want to cover this first point, what does your website need to do to get them to feel safe? It needs a disruptive, compelling, emotional story that is clearly different from your competition. I mean, if we think about how people buy, they do a Google search, they get a page of results, they click on the first one, they go to the website. Okay, great. Click on the second one. Okay, great. Maybe they click on the third one. I don't know if they even get that far, but if their first one is a bad website, they're definitely hitting the back button going to number 2. If the second is a bad website, they're definitely hitting the back button and go to number 3. Now think about your business. If that's happening to you, where are you in that process? Are they landing on your website and going like, "Oh my goodness, this website is amazing. Like, look at these guys. Like, I get what they do and they're super interesting and they're talking about me and they have tons of content on there." That's that's the kind of experience you need to create for people out of the gate if you want them to ever get ready to speak to a sales rep. So, without going into too many details, there's plenty of shows and there's plenty of stuff on Square 2's website about it, how to build a website, how to tell a story and educational content. But you need a great story and you need great content, and you need content for all the different stages of the buyer journey if you want to, connect with people when they land there. Now, let's just assume you got that down and you get someone to come out of the forest and tell you who they are. And, after a week or two of ongoing nurtures, and then they came back to your website and they read a blog article because they signed up for your blog, and, you published 2 or 3 blog articles over the past week or so. So you're having that ongoing conversation with that prospect, whether you know it or not. Eventually, if you do a good job kind of working them through the buyer journey with educational material, they're going to get to the point where they want to talk to a rep. Because, to be honest, they can't buy a $200,000 piece of software without speaking to someone, right? We're not selling things. Most of Square Two's clients are not selling things that are transactionally based. They're more consultatively based. So eventually, they're going to need to talk to you. Now, Cade, maybe you could walk the audience through our sales process, because it is specifically designed to get a prospect to feel safe. And as he's doing it, I can kind of highlight some of the key experiences we've included in there that are specifically designed to get a prospect to feel safe.
Yeah, I can do that. There's a few things that I would say at a high level are really, really important, and then I'll share our sales process, and you can see how we've incorporated these things into our sales process specifically. The first, and this is going to sound shocking, is have a sales process. You don't ever want to work with like a custom home builder or go to a doctor, and they're like completely oblivious to the process that they're going to take you through. So it sounds shocking, but a lot of people don't even have a defined process. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is make it very, very clear what they should expect. Is this going to take a week? Is it going to take 3 days? Is it going to take 30 days? How many meetings are included? What's the process that we're going to go through? So make it clear what you can expect. Another thing that's really, really important is add value, add value, add value. Don't just make it salesy. Make it educational. Make it very value driven. And then the other thing I would encourage is include different levels of leadership in the sales process for different aspects of contribution. And so those are some things that people can do that I think build credibility and trust in the sales process. And I think as you hear our process, you're going to see that. So the very first thing that we do, someone reaches out, they want to meet with us. We send an email to set up a discovery meeting. So the very first meeting in our sales process is a discovery call. I hop on a call with the prospect for 30 minutes, and it's all about understanding who they are and what they're looking for. And so just it's exactly what it would sound like in terms of just understanding their needs and seeing if we're a fit for them and if they're a fit for us. If they are, then what we do is we move to a diagnostic meeting. And the diagnostic meeting is a real deep dive. It's an hour-long Zoom call. And it's all about getting into the nuance and the nitty-gritty of their goals and objectives, their pain points, what they're trying to accomplish with their revenue, with their marketing, other aspects of their business. This meeting is I would argue one of the most important meetings in our sales process, and I think we do this very, very well. So I'm on that call. Mike, you are our CEO, you're on that call, and then Kristen, our president, who also oversees client services, she's on that call. And so Square Two tries to bring our very best to that meeting to really engage and serve the prospect in that meeting. From the diagnostic meeting, what we do is we huddle internally, we take all of our notes and our thoughts and start kind of forming our recommendations. And so we put our recommendations together. And then the next meeting in our sales process, what we call the engagement summary meeting. And this is a 15 to 20 minute Zoom call where we look at what I just call the rough draft of our recommendations, timeline, and budget to give our prospect an opportunity to make sure that we're aligned around what we're recommending and what we're suggesting in terms of budget, really for 2 reasons. One, we don't want any surprises. We don't want to get to the proposal meeting and the client's like shocked at the price or shocked at the timeline or shocked at the robustness of the recommendations. And so we want to kind of get that in front of them and give them an opportunity to kind of feel their way through that. And then this is language that you've always used, and I think it's perfect, which is we want to co-create the proposal together. We want them to feel like they've played an important and strategic role in creating a set of recommendations. Again, this creates trust, it creates credibility, and maybe more importantly, it prevents any kind of surprises when we get to the proposal. And then after that meeting, we adjust where necessary, if necessary, and then we have a recommendation meeting where we go through the proposal in great detail. And again, I'm on that call, you're on that call, Kristen's on that call. And so, 90% of our sales process includes, the 2 senior leaders of our organization. And I highlight this because I think it really does bring value to the process. It helps create trust. with a prospect. And I think this is really important. It helps the prospect see that we really value them. We value the opportunity they're giving us to serve them. We value their time. And so we bring our very best to that meeting. I've seen this bring a lot of value in the sense that it's not just a salesperson they're dealing with for 30 to 45 days, and then all of a sudden they get handed off to the team. And so, not to be redundant, but I think including different people in your organization who are going to be serving the prospect in different ways is a really unique opportunity to create a lot of trust and a lot of credibility throughout the sales process.
Yeah, that was really good. Thank you. So let's just break it down a little bit in a one more lower level of granularity there. So you talked about the discovery call, which is kind of like a good introductory call just to make sure that they're a good fit for us, we're a good fit for them, we're talking to the right person. They have a legitimate opportunity. From a sales perspective, you don't want your reps working on cycles with prospects that are not serious, right? So, when someone says to Kay, like, oh yeah, we're interested, but maybe, we still have an agency and we're under contract for 6 months. So we're kind of like looking around like, okay, great, good to know. Like, call us when you're ready, basically, right? Like, there's no point in Cade running that whole process for someone that is not going to make a decision for 6 months. I'm happy to talk to them when they get a little closer. But there's no point in us doing a proposal for them at this point, right? So we want to make sure that they have acute pain. We want to make sure that we're talking to the right people. Again, if you're not talking to the person that's going to make the decision, the having someone else tell your story is a complicating factor that you want to try to ignore if you not ignore, but get around if you possibly can. The second step is really important when we talk about SAFE. The second step in our process is designed to ask them tons of questions. Now, why would we do that? Like, why ask a prospect to spend 60 to 90 minutes with us for us to just ask them tons of questions? That's a good point to bring up. Well, we do it for a very specific reason, and that is human beings like talking about themselves. And if we're asking them questions and they're talking about their business and their issues and their challenges and the things that they've done, like, they all of a sudden start to get more comfortable, right? It's the same way if you went to a party and I met you and I talked about myself for the whole time, you'd be like, oh, that guy was kind of like a, whatever, like, I'm not really interested in seeing him again. But if I asked you tons of questions and I really looked like whether I am or not interested in you and what you're up to, like, you're going to think better of me because it looks like I cared about you enough to ask you lots of questions, and I was attentively listening and asking you additional questions. And that's the same thing that's going on here. If I talk to you for half an hour and then put a proposal in front of your face, how well do I know your business? How comfortable do you really feel with me? Like, I haven't even gotten to know you at all. It would be like a doctor giving you a prescription after talking to you for 2 minutes. Oh, your eye hurts? Here, take this medicine. You'd be like, wait a minute, what? You haven't even looked at my eye. You haven't run any tests. You haven't asked me any questions. How long is it? Like, you would be immediately uncomfortable. A lot of people make that mistake in the sales process also. So the step to ask them lots of questions, not only does it give us all the information we need to put smart recommendations in front of them, which is about us, not really about them, but it gets them comfortable talking to us about their business and their issues, their challenges, their pains. So there's some very specific things in there. When Kate talked about co-creating the recommendations, again, if they're involved in that process, they're going to feel better about us. Oh, look at this company. They're including us in the development of the recommendations. Like, I'm going into this meeting with my boss. I already know how much it's going to cost. I know exactly what they're going to do. I know what the timeline is. And all this is exactly what we've been discussing internally. It should be a no-brainer, right? Like, it puts everybody at ease, as opposed to them crossing their fingers and holding their breath and hoping this isn't a $500,000 marketing engagement. Like, what? Like, that's not going to work here. So including them in that process and sharing with them what we're thinking also makes them feel safe. So there's some very specific things that are in this process that align perfectly with what people need to feel good about their purchase decision. People make purchase decisions emotionally first, and then rationalize it second. And that means if they know, like, and trust you, they're emotionally bought in. Yes, it still has to be the right price. Yes, the payment terms still have to be there. Yes, it has to be the things that you think you need, but that's the rationalization part of the process. That comes after they're emotionally interested in doing business with you. So it's really important to teach your reps about know, like, and trust, and make sure that your process is designed to deliver know, like, and trust. Kay brought up a good point. We specifically tell our prospects what the steps are in the process. I always like to use my wife as an example. She's constantly asking, well, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? She's the kind of person that doesn't want to be surprised. She wants to know step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, then we're finished. And I think that's a lot of people are like that. They don't want to hope it works out right. They want to know what all the steps are so they can be properly prepared and know what they don't want any surprises. They want to know exactly what's coming. So having a process, like Kate said, sharing it with your prospects, designing that process so it is specific and intentional to get them to feel safe is how you create a sales process that A, runs faster, meaning it's going to take you less time to get these people to say yes, and B, they're going to say yes more frequently, which is, again, if you're asking the question, what's wrong with revenue? It could be your sales process is too long, your close rate is too low. This is one way to specifically fix that. Cade, I want to talk about measurement because we talk about metrics a lot at Square 2. So you measure whether prospects are feeling safe or not. And how do you think you could respond to those numbers if it looks like they're not feeling safe?
That's really interesting. I thought of this more kind of from a almost like relational observation and not so much metrics. And so yeah, let's talk through this. There are two things I thought of when I saw this. One is, are they engaged? Like, are they engaging the sales process? And that's a really good indication as to whether or not I think that they trust you, that they understand the process, that they're adding value from their perspective to the process. So are they engaged? Are they asking questions? Are they giving good, meaningful, robust answers? So I think that's one way you can measure if someone really trusts you is, are they willing to open up the book, so to speak? Are they, how many times have we been on a call and we'll ask, like, what's the lifetime value of a customer? Or, what's your revenue goal? Or how much revenue are you doing now? And they don't want to answer. They don't want to participate in that. They say, I'd rather not share that. And so I think there are little cues like that that give you an indication as to someone, trusts you and they're willing to kind of engage in the process. I think that's a really good indicator. This one I think is really important, and it's increasingly getting hard since all of us live on Zoom now. But even observing someone's body language in the meeting gives you a really good indication as to whether or not they trust you and that they're connected with you going through the sales process. If they're sitting back, if they're slunched over, if you can visibly see that they're responding to emails during the sales process, something is missing in that engagement that is made them not want to engage you in the process. And I think these are really important things that indicate and show whether or not a prospect really trusts you. I think another one, and this is tangibly measurable, is how, like, we've done this so many times now that we know when we're dealing with someone who's a good fit and who's engaged in the process, which typically means they trust you, it's going to take 30 to 40 days from the very beginning to the very end, right, of our sales process that we walked through earlier. If that starts creeping beyond that, then there's something missing. They don't trust you. They're not into you. They've decided that, maybe we're not who they thought, they were getting when they first engaged us. And so monitoring, your sales cycle in terms of first touch to presenting a proposal and getting a yes or no is definitely one of those data points that you can look at to kind of get an indication of whether or not someone really is trusting the process and therefore trusting you.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Your sales cycle, how many days it takes to close a deal, if that's getting longer, I think that's an indication that your process is not producing safety for your prospects. And then you can go and look at the individual stages and find out where the bottleneck might be. So, in our case, if the diagnostic meeting is not progressing quickly to the conversation about the recommendations, then we're obviously not doing a good job in the diagnostic meeting, getting them to feel comfortable with us. So if you have a sales process, or I should say, when you have a sales process and you have measured the conversion rates along that process, you'll start to get a good idea whether any of those stages in the process is not working like it should be working. And I think that's the best way to measure it. If you have a low close rate, your process is not helping people feel safe. If people are not going from step to step to step to step relatively quickly, you're not helping them feel safe. So that's probably the best way to measure whether they feel safe or not. If after the diagnostic meeting, they're like, yeah, I can't wait to see what you guys recommend. Like, when can we have that meeting? And then Kate's like, oh, well, let's give us a couple of days to talk amongst ourselves. Then we'll get back to you. Like, yeah, that sounds great. Like, you're onto it. If they're like, well, I don't know, let me get back to you. You didn't help them feel safe. So, you can probably look at that really at each stage of your sales process, and those conversion rates should be relatively high. They're not going to be 100% because you're going to find people that fall out of the sales process for good reason. So none of those stages should be 100%, especially the first one. At Square Two, Cade's job literally is to disqualify people, because we want to only bring in to the company the right clients that are going to want to work with us the way we know we need to work with them to produce the best results. Lately, we've been saying we're really looking for people who want to win the Super Bowl. Do you want to win the Super Bowl? Do you want to do everything you possibly can to drive revenue at your company? I know this might sound crazy, but there are people who don't want to do that. Yep. They just want to keep doing what they've been doing, and hopefully things get better. And that's not really a good fit for Square Two. It might be a good fit for other agencies, but it's not a good fit for Square Two. So we're really trying to make sure that we're only spending time with people who are going to be good clients for Square Two. So we qualify quite a few people out early on. At that point, though, they should be very high conversion rates the rest of the way for Square Two, because the diagnostic meeting, the co-creation meeting, and the recommendation meeting are all designed for people who we want to work with and for people who want to work with us. So in our case, those conversion rates should be very high, in the 80 to 90% range. And the close rate should be equally high. So, again, if you're working with people who, are not a good fit for you, you want to try to find that out early. There's a lot of sales data that says salespeople should get to know early in the process. You don't want to hear no at the end. You want to hear no in the beginning. Right. So again, work your sales process and set up your metrics to have a lower conversion rate at the beginning of your process and a much higher conversion rate at the end of your process. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you nailed it.
Okay. All right. So the last thing I want to cover in the show today is about customers, because customers are a very unique asset in the sales process, because they already know, like, and trust you, or they wouldn't be a customer. So they already feel safe. So the question in this last segment is, how do you leverage customers who already feel safe to drive more revenue from either current customers or from these prospects we've been talking about the whole time?
Yeah, there are a few things that I think of when I think of this. One is really invest intentionally in helping your client service team identify unique opportunities to serve the customer and add more value. The best client service teams always kind of have an ear to the ground for unique pain points or unique opportunities that clients are looking for, and have the ability to serve the client by identifying those opportunities and serving them in that way. I think another thing that you can do is make sure that your systems and your processes of client service are built around unique opportunities and consistent opportunities to analyze and understand results and constantly be looking for improvements. And then I think a third thing that's really critical, and I feel like our team does a really good job of this, ask the client for reviews and feedback. And the vast majority of customers, in my experience, are happy to do that. And so it's just another way to kind of leverage existing customers, to kind of continue to build trust and to continue to validate what your company is doing. And that then helps, obviously, in the sales process, because the best sales are a bunch of really happy customers. That's the best things you can do for your own sales. So I think those are some really practical things that you can do to leverage existing customers, and to really build credibility and trust in the process.
Yeah, I'll add a couple things to that. So first, a lot of people make the mistake of either not marketing or marketing incorrectly to their current customer base. So you'd be surprised how many people really don't market to their customers at all. They just kind of rely on the customers to work with customer service. And if they need something, they'll ask for it. And if they don't, that's them. That's one set of clients. The other set of clients love just pushing products on current customers. And I don't think that's the right thing to do either. Instead, they should be telling more stories about how customers are leveraging their products and services to achieve their own business objectives. Again, if you're just sending me a product update once a week or discounts on things I can buy, like it's not really super helpful if I'm trying to, make my company better or have a better experience. But if I read about one of your other customers who did A, B, and C with your products and services, and I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't know I could do that with that. I got to talk to someone about this. That's a whole different way to add value to your current customers. And that's how people want to process information. Like super easy to ignore promotional email. We all get them. We all delete them. We all barely read them. But if I had a little tidbit about another business that looked like mine that was doing something interesting from a company I'm already working with, you got my attention. Like I already like this company. So yeah, I'm going to read about this. And if I find value in that, I may reach out and say, hey, I want a little bit of that. How do I get involved in this? And next thing you know, you have additional revenue from current customers. And the last piece of it is, no matter how good we are at this know, like, and trust piece, prospects never trust you. I mean, they might feel safe, but they don't really know you that well. And even if you spent a ton of time with them like we do, it's only going to go so far. But if they get to talk, if they get to hear from our customers, it's going to go a lot farther. So, Kate said we ask a lot of our customers to write reviews for us, and they do it. We also ask them to make videos of them talking about our experience, their experience with us. And we share those videos with prospects so they can hear directly from our customers what it's like to work with Square 2 and what we did for them and how great we worked with them and how we listened and how we were great we are at this and great we are at that. Like, I'd rather them tell you our story than us tell you our story, because you're going to believe them more. They're not paid for that endorsement. They're not, if they're not happy, they're not going to do those videos because those videos take a little bit of effort on their part. They're doing us a favor to participate in that process because they like working with us and we've added value to their businesses. So, it's a legit piece of content. It's not something that we wrote on our own behalf. So I would encourage you highly to not only ask for reviews, but ask your customers to do video testimonials and include those in the sales process, include those in your marketing, because that's going to accelerate the amount of leads you get and it's going to shorten your sales cycle for sure. Anything you want to add, Kate, before I wrap up?
No, I think that's really well said.
Thank you. So just to remind everybody, check out the show on YouTube. Square 2 Marketing has a YouTube channel. All season 1 and season 2 episodes of What's Wrong with Revenue are there. You can like us, you can subscribe to it, and you can also comment. We really appreciate the comments. You can check out the show on Square 2's free streaming service called Square 2 Plus. It's at square2marketing.com/Square2PLUS. All types of audio and video content are there. We have channels for CEOs, CROs, CMOs. We have a HubSpot channel. And we even have a cute little pickleball business channel too, if you want to go check that out. We post stuff to Square 2 Plus pretty much every week. And you can subscribe to it too. So when we do post new things, we'll let you know via email. And the show, What's Wrong with Revenue, has its own page. If you go to the top of our website and click podcast, you'll get to see a page called What's Wrong with Revenue. You can subscribe to the show directly there. We will email you updates. And when we drop the shows on Thursdays, we'll send a show right to your inbox so you don't have to go looking for it. And you can also ask us questions. Since next week's going to be our last show, I'll make sure we handle some questions that have come in over the past couple of weeks from a variety of shows. We'll wrap that all up. And like I said at the beginning of the show's going to take a break over the summer. We appreciate all you guys listening and watching. But it'll be a good opportunity for us to reflect a bit on what the show's been doing and feedback we've gotten from some of you. and come back in the fall with a bigger and better show. So thanks everybody for listening. Cade, thanks for being my guest, and everybody have a great day.
Thanks, Mike.